Ground beef wasn't always just dinner, it was survival. From Native American prairies to the Great Depression, families turned 1 pound of meat into meals that carried love and resilience. These forgotten dishes weren't luxuries, they were lifelines shaping generations with creativity born of hardship. Before we begin, hit like and subscribe. Today we revisit 10 ground beef recipes your grandparents ate to survive. Coming in at number 10, shepherd's pie with ground beef. When lamb was out of reach, families in the 1930s and 1940s turned to ground beef to carry on the tradition. Picture a deep baking dish, a layer of savory beef browned with onions, carrots, and peas, seasoned with nothing fancy, just salt, pepper, and a splash of broth. Over that, a thick blanket of creamy mashed potatoes enriched with butter and milk was spread smooth and high. As it baked, the potatoes developed a golden crust that cracked gently under the fork, giving way to the steaming, flavorful filling below. The contrast of textures, fluffy potato on top, rich beef and vegetables beneath, made every bite feel like home. Families would gather around the table, spooning out hearty portions that warmed both body and soul. Shepherd's pie wasn't just a dish, it was a reminder of resilience, of turning modest means into abundance. It carried the spirit of survival wrapped in comfort. Your comments keep these memories alive. Drop yours below and share which dish from this journey brought back the strongest memories for you. Coming in at number 9, stuffed peppers with beef and rice. Few sights brightened a dinner table in the 1950s, like a row of colorful bell peppers hollowed out and filled to the brim. Inside was a mixture of brown ground beef, tender rice, onions, and herbs, simple ingredients transformed into something that looked like a feast. As the peppers baked, their skin softened and sweetened, releasing an aroma that promised both nourishment and comfort. Each pepper was a complete meal on its own, vibrant on the outside, hearty within. Mothers loved it because it stretched meat with rice, while children loved the novelty of eating from a vegetable bowl. Sometimes a ladle of tomato sauce was poured over the top, soaking down into the filling and adding just the right tang. For families struggling to balance thrift with variety, stuffed peppers offered both beauty and practicality. Looking back now, between the elegance of potato nests and the hearty comfort of stuffed peppers, which one would you be more excited to bring back to your own table? Coming in at number 8, potato nest casserole. In kitchens of the 1950s, creativity often sprang from necessity. Imagine thin potato slices carefully arranged in muffin tins, forming delicate little nests. Into each went a scoop of seasoned ground beef mixed with onions and herbs. As the oven worked its magic, the potatoes softened at the base and crisped at the edges, while the beef bubbled hot inside. When the casserole was pulled out, each portion looked like something from a celebration, even if it was just an ordinary weeknight. Children's eyes widened as they were served their own golden potato nest, almost too pretty to eat. The contrast of crispy edges with tender beef filling made every bite feel special. It was proof that presentation could elevate the simplest ingredients. Housewives of the era turned this clever dish into more than a meal. It was an experience, a small triumph of pride placed on the family table. Coming in at number 7, Salisbury steak with onion gravy. Long before it became a frozen TV dinner, Salisbury steak was a way to make ground beef feel like luxury. Mothers in the 1940s shaped seasoned beef into oval patties, binding them with breadcrumbs and eggs so they looked substantial on the plate. First came the sear patties, sizzling in a pan until browned and fragrant. Then the real star, a gravy of caramelized onions, broth, and pan drippings that simmered low and slow. The result was a dish that felt far fancier than its cost. Served with mashed potatoes or rice, each bite blended the soft beef patty with the sweet, savory richness of onion gravy. Families gathered, forks clinking, conversations flowing as steam curled up from the plate. For children, it was as close to steakhouse dining as they could imagine. For parents, it was proof that even in lean times, creativity could turn the ordinary into something that felt like a celebration. Salisbury steak was more than dinner, it was dignity on a dish. Coming in at number 6, beef and cabbage skillet. Cabbage may have been humble, but in the 1930s, it was a quiet hero. Picture a black skillet, hissing as ground beef browned, filling the air with that savory aroma. Then in went chopped cabbage, onions, and just a sprinkle of paprika. Slowly, the cabbage wilted, soaking up every drop of seasoned beef juice until each bite tasted richer than its cost could ever suggest. Families loved this dish not only because it was filling, but because it felt hearty and nourishing. Guests could drop by unannounced, and somehow there was always enough to go around. Cabbage stretched the beef, turning scarcity into abundance. The skillet itself became a symbol of resilience, a reminder that simple food could keep everyone fed. It wasn't flashy, but it warmed both stomachs and spirits, turning an ordinary night into a memory. If you're enjoying this trip, hit like and subscribe for more stories from America's table. Looking back at the last 3 dishes, shipwreck, casserole, sloppy joe pie, and beef with cabbage, which one would you want to taste again today? Coming in at number 5, old school American goulash. Before spaghetti night became a thing, Families in the 1940s and 1950s relied on goulash, simple, hearty, and endlessly adaptable. Into one big pot went brown ground beef, elbow macaroni, and canned tomatoes. If the garden offered an onion or a bell pepper, it joined the mix. Leftover corn from yesterday's supper might sneak in too. The magic wasn't in fancy spices, but in how everything simmered together. The tomatoes turned tangy and sweet, coating every bite of pasta and beef. By the next day, reheated leftovers tasted even better as the flavors deepened. For families stretched thin, this was the definition of comfort. One pot feeding 8 people for under $2. Children loved its warmth, parents loved its thrift, and everyone went to bed full. It wasn't glamorous, but it was America's way of saying, we'll get through this together, one bowl at a time. Coming in at number 4, Sloppy Joe pie. Step into a 1930s kitchen where a single pie crust could turn scraps into a celebration. This wasn't the messy sandwich you know today, it was Sloppy Joe reimagined. Mother's browned ground beef until crispy at the edges, folded in onions, then stirred in a sweet and tangy sauce of ketchup, brown sugar, and vinegar. That mixture, bubbling and fragrant, was spooned into a waiting crust, then blanketed with another layer of pastry. As it baked, the house filled with the smell of caramelized onions, mingling with vinegar's sharp bite and sugar's sweetness. When golden and bubbling, it emerged from the oven like treasure. Each slice was hearty, the flaky crust giving way to savory, sweet filling that clung to the fork. Families who had so little suddenly sat down to something that felt like a feast. This dish proved that, with just pantry staples and creativity, even the leanest nights could taste like Sunday dinner. For children, Sloppy Joe pie wasn't just food, it was excitement, laughter, and the warmth of being gathered close around the table. Coming in at number 3, shipwreck casserole. The name might sound like disaster, but in Depression-era America, it was salvation. Picture a kitchen where every scrap mattered, ground beef sizzling in a skillet, egg noodles boiling away, and children sneaking bites of potato chips meant for the topping. Mothers layered it all together, savory beef and noodles on the bottom, a crown of crushed chips mixed with butter on top. As the casserole baked, the chips turned golden and crisp, releasing a toasty aroma that drifted through the house. Each forkful carried contrast, the crunch of chips meeting the tenderness of noodles and beef. Families who had little suddenly felt like they were feasting, and kids lit up at the sight of their wreck of a dinner. It wasn't fancy, but it was fun, memorable, and proof that love could transform scraps into comfort. Even now, the thought of that crispy topping breaking under a spoon stirs nostalgia for simpler, tougher times. Looking back at these first 3 dishes, gravy over potatoes, sweet glazed patties, and the so-called shipwreck, if you had to bring one back to your own table, which would it be? Coming in at number 2, ketchup glazed meat patties. In the kitchens of the 1940s and 1950s, simplicity often carried the most magic. Imagine a mother shaping ground beef into patties by hand, her children watching eagerly from the table. The sizzling sound as the patties hit the hot skillet filled the house, promising a meal that felt special despite its humble beginnings. Once browned, the patties were brushed with a mixture of ketchup, brown sugar, and vinegar, then slid into the oven. As the glaze caramelized, the air turned sweet and tangy, wrapping every corner of the home in anticipation. When pulled out, the patties glistened with a glossy red coat that made them look like a feast fit for Sunday, even on a Tuesday night. Served with mashed potatoes and green beans, these patties were the kind of meal that made kids clean their plates without complaint. Sweet, savory, and satisfying, they proved that even in lean times, resourcefulness could turn the ordinary into something unforgettable. If you're enjoying this trip, hit like and subscribe for more journeys down memory lane. Coming in at number 1, hamburger gravy over mashed potatoes. Picture a cold evening during the Great Depression when money was tight and cupboards looked bare. The kitchen filled with the smell of onions browning in a cast iron skillet, a sound and scent that promised hope. Ground beef sizzled as fat rendered down, creating the foundation for something far greater than the sum of its parts. Grandmothers would sprinkle in flour, whisking it into a golden paste before slowly pouring in milk. The mixture thickened into a rich, creamy gravy that seemed almost miraculous, stretching 1 pound of beef to feed 6 hungry souls. Seasoned with nothing more than salt, pepper, and a hint of garlic, it became comfort on a plate. Ladled over a mountain of mashed potatoes, the gravy seeped into every crevice, making each bite warm, hearty, and filling, enough to quiet even the hungriest teenager. Families gathered around bowls, steaming bellies, filling spirits, lifting. In those hard times, this dish wasn't just food, it was love, poured from skillet to table, a memory etched into generations. These 10 ground beef recipes weren't just meals, they were survival stories passed from native kitchens to Depression-era tables. Each dish carried resilience, creativity, and the unshakable spirit of family. They remind us that food is more than flavor, it's memory, history, and love served one plate at a time. From hamburger gravy to shepherd's pie, these humble recipes shaped generations and deserve to be remembered. If you enjoyed this journey, hit like and subscribe. And tell us in the comments which forgotten dish spoke to your heart the most.